What's up, guys? We've all learned that you don't always get what you paid for. Sometimes you reward yourself with a $50 steak at a restaurant, but by the time you're almost finished with it, you realize you could have cooked yourself an even better piece of meat at home, and for less than half the price. Or maybe you take the risk and buy a beat-up car for a couple $1,000, but it breaks down after a month. Those are bad investments. But imagine being a sports team that dishes out millions of dollars to a player only to get very little out of them. I'm Biondo, and today we present the most overpaid athletes in sports right now. Don't forget to subscribe to TPS and put on your notifications because we post videos every single day. Every day is a new video, so you have to subscribe. It's a good idea. Join the notification squad. Go do it. Number 10, Evan Turner. After a fairly productive 2015 and 16 season with the Boston Celtics, Evan Turner signed a 4-year deal worth $70 million with the Portland Trail Blazers. That was a lot of cash for a guy who, only averaged double-digit points per game in 3 seasons. But hey, Portland was desperate to find another playmaker to play alongside All-Star Damian Lillard. So they took the risk. And boy, are they ever regretting it. Turner averaged no more than 9 points and less than 4 rebounds per game. That was through his first 2 seasons with Portland. You can't fault Portland for trying to pay a lot of money in hopes of finding more support for Lillard. But giving Turner this much cash, despite never displaying superstardom, was never a smart decision. They certainly regret it. Number 9, Derek Carr. After leading the Oakland Raiders to 12 wins and a playoff berth in 2016, Derek Carr was rewarded big time. The Raiders handed Carr a 5-year contract extension worth $125 million. Who would have thought it'd wind up being such a bad contract in less than 2 years later? Carr's 2017 season was nothing short of a disappointment. He was paid to take Oakland to that next level. A back injury hampered Carr in his 4th season, as he threw for just 3,496 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. John Gruden was paid $100 million to come back into coaching after a decade in the broadcast booth. Gruden then traded away Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper, a pair of franchise cornerstone players. That left Carr to fight for himself in 2018, and it led to another pathetic year for the Raiders. If Gruden thought it was a good idea to trade a generational talent like Mack, imagine how infuriated he is at the Raiders for giving Carr $125 million to simply not win games. 2019 could be Carr's last chance to show he's worthy of his money. Otherwise, whichever team's Carr is playing for will ask him to reconstruct his contract or get out of town. That's it. Number 8, Andrew Ladd. The 6'3" winger won Stanley Cups with the Carolina Hurricanes and Chicago Blackhawks in 2006 and 2010. But Andrew Ladd became more than a bottom 6 forward when he joined the Winnipeg Jets franchise. He became a consistent 20-goal and 50-point player during his tenure as captain of the Jets. However, Winnipeg was unwilling to give an aging Ladd a long-term deal, so they dealt him back to Chicago at the 2016 trade deadline. Desperate to find a new scoring winger for John Tavares, the New York Islanders handed Ladd an overly generous 7-year contract worth $38.5 million. And well, you wonder why Tavares opted to leave such a horribly managed organization. Ladd scored just 31 points in his first season with the Islanders, then tallied just 29 the following year, and he spent most of his 2018-19 season on the sidelines due to injury. His contract carries a $5.5 million cap hit through the 2022 and 23 season, and he's putting up 3rd to 4th line numbers. I think the Islanders want to redo. So do I. Number 7, Timofey Mozgov. We're surprised the Los Angeles Lakers press release didn't read YOLO when they gave 7'1" center Timofey Mozgov a 4-year contract worth $64 million in the 2016 offseason. The Lakers had the cap space, which could explain why they gave him so much money. But hear me out. This guy was coming off a season in which he averaged 6.3 points per game for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Were the Lakers just that desperate to add a guy who had won the NBA championship a few weeks earlier? Mozgov predictably didn't live up to the contract in Lakerland. He averaged a mere 7.4 points and 4.9 rebounds per game. The Lakers were so desperate to get rid of Mozgov, they packaged him with the young and talented D'Angelo Russell and sent them both to the Brooklyn Nets. At least the Lakers cleared the space to sign LeBron James a year later. But what were they thinking giving this bench player that much money? Wow. Number 6, Jason Heyward. Call it a double whammy for the Chicago Cubs. After reaching the NLCS in 2015, they nabbed standout pitcher John Lackey and Gold Glove outfielder Jason Heyward from the arch rival St. Louis Cardinals. Again, it was a pair of double whammy moves. Strengthen your own team, weaken the rival competition. Well, the Cardinals wound up being smart for not matching or topping the 8-year, $184 million contract the Cubs gave Heyward in the 2015 offseason. Though Heyward has been a great defensive outfielder in Chicago, he's been quite poor at the plate. His home run, RBI batting average, and OPS numbers are nothing close to what we saw in Atlanta and St. Louis. Through his first 3 years in Chicago, Heyward sported a mere .252 batting average and .688 OPS. Guys, this was a guy who had a wins above replacement of 5.5 or higher in 4 different seasons. Through his first 3 seasons with the Cubs, he never topped 2.3. Well, at least the Cubbies won the World Series in 2016, so they won't regret it. But that doesn't mean they're thrilled about giving him that much money either. Number 5, Nate Solder. Nate Solder enjoyed 7 productive seasons at offensive tackle for the New England Patriots, doing a tremendous job in protecting Tom Brady's blindside. Solder was part of 2 Super Bowl championship teams in Foxborough, but he decided to chase the big bucks after the 2017 season. Despite never being named to a Pro Bowl, Solder received a fancy 4-year, $62 million contract from the New York Giants in the 2018 offseason. That contract would only be acceptable if you were talking about a Joe Thomas-like player here. Solder became a top 5 paid offensive lineman, but figuratively, he was horrible for the Giants in 2018. Eli Manning's pass protection hit an all-time low. He kept taking sacks and couldn't do much of anything with no time to throw. Wasn't Solder paid to give Manning pass protection? Solder wasn't even worth that much money when he was producing for the Patriots. Needless to say, the Giants probably learned to never pay a slightly above average player superstar money. Number 4, Brent Seabrook. He was a cornerstone defenseman for the Chicago Blackhawks dynasty that produced 3 Stanley Cup championships between 2010 and 2015. For his efforts, Brent Seabrook was awarded a whopping 8-year extension worth $55 million after Chicago won the 2015 Stanley Cup. Well, the Blackhawks have regressed big time, and they're stuck with Seabrook's contract. His contract carries $6.875 million cap hit through 2023 and 24. That's a ton of money for a guy who's become a liability on defense, one who's no longer capable of putting up 40-point seasons. The Blackhawks are beginning a massive rebuilding project, but there's no escape from Seabrook's contract. Bet your GM Stan Bowman wishes he had just traded Seabrook, rather than give him a monster contract that seemingly lasts forever. Number 3, Kirk Cousins. Classic. Too soon to put him on here? We don't think so. Kirk Cousins was the Washington Redskins starter for 3 seasons, from 2015 to 2017. He had 1 Pro Bowl selection, 0 playoff wins, and 0 30-touchdown seasons on his resume. Call him an above-average quarterback, but nothing else. But don't tell that to the Minnesota Vikings. Instead of sticking with Case Keenum, who led them to the 2017 NFC Championship game, the Vikings thought an upgrade at quarterback was enough to lead them to a Super Bowl. So Minnesota signed Cousins to a 3-year deal worth $84 million in the 2018 offseason. It doesn't seem too bad on paper until you remember every penny of that $84 million. It's guaranteed. Cousins had a very frustrating first year in Minnesota, which led to the firing of offensive coordinator John DeFilippo. And they only had a few games to go in 2018. Yeah, it was that bad. Cousins couldn't beat any of the elite teams that the Vikings paid him to beat. We'll see how the final 2 years of this deal goes, but it looks like one no regret for the time being. Number 2, Chandler Parsons. The 6'10" forward had a productive season for the Dallas Mavericks in 2015 and 16, averaging 13.7 points, 4.7 rebounds, and 2.8 assists per game. For some reason, the Memphis Grizzlies viewed those numbers as all-star caliber. In the 2016 offseason, the Grizzlies rewarded Parsons with a 4-year contract worth $94 million. The contract seemed like a terrible idea at the time, given his history of knee injuries. My knee! So what happened? Well, exactly what you expect to happen. Parsons played a total of just 70 games through his first 2 years in Memphis, failing to even average double-digit points per game. He once again got hit with more knee woes early in the 2018-19 season. The 3rd-year Parsons contract pays him approximately $24 million, and the final year just north of $25 million. Please, Grizzlies, sign me up instead. I'd love to make that much money and put up like 7 points per game. Honestly, I probably couldn't even do like a point, but you know what? I'll get you, here, how about this? I'll get you 1 point per game. That seems pretty fair, right? Your people will call my people. Okay, cool. Let's make it happen. Number 1, Chris Davis. A classic example of it seemed like a good idea at the time. Before the 2016 season began, the Baltimore Orioles handed slugger Chris Davis a 7-year contract extension worth $61 million. Why not? He clubbed 53 home runs in 2013, then followed up with 26 and 47 in 2014 and 15. It's pretty good. Who's complaining? If the guy could flirt with 30 home runs and 100 RBIs in any given season, why not reward him for it? Well, Davis continued to hit dingers years in 2016 and 17, but his RBI, batting average, and OPS numbers went down significantly. And 2018? Yeah, it literally was the worst season an MLB hitter has ever endured. In 128 game appearances, Davis batted an awful 168. You know how players need at least 502 plate appearances to qualify for the batting title? Yeah, Davis' 168 batting average was the worst ever among qualified players. It was 11 points worse than the previous record held by Dan Uggla, who batted 179 in 2013. Davis struck out 192 times in 522 plate appearances. His OPS was a pathetic 539. His wins above replacement in 2018 was minus 2.8, which means he essentially cost his team 3 games. That's crazy. Alright, enough math. A total salary of approximately $21.1 million. Easily the worst contract in sports right now. You feel for Davis and hope he can turn it around, but for now, he's easily the most overpaid athlete in sports. Who do you think is the most overpaid athletes in sports right now? Join us in the comment section below. Make sure to follow myself and Total Pro Sports on social media. We post great content all the time. All the time. You gotta go follow us. Go check out our profiles. Go give it a look. Your phone is in your hand right now. I know it is. Just go give it a look. Just one look. That's all you gotta do. If you like this video, give it a like. It takes one click. Please. Right there. Right down there. If this is your first time around TPS, make sure to subscribe because we post videos every single day. Every day is new video. Every day. Tomorrow, new video. Yesterday, new video. 3 days from now, new video. Subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Jason Biondo, and I'll see you next time.
My knee.